Hi, I was talking to a friend and customer about finding some fluidity or spinal movement without a lot of danger when you have low bone density. So it all stems from a conversation about the contraindication for forward flexion and loaded flexion, not to mention flexion with a twist. We won't even go there. But just talking about forward flexion, which could look like a roll down in Pilates, where you're on the ground and you're rolling slowly back to lying on the ground. Not a great idea. And it could also look like a standing roll down that happens sometimes in yoga and sometimes in Pilates. So finding other ways to the floor is one aspect that we cover in Short and Sweet with Sarah. So always check that out. It's a great membership for only $15 a month. The other things that I'd like to show you, though, are ways that you can find fluidity and movement, and it starts with my little band and my trusty 360-degree breathing. So this is covered in both of my programs. It's always worthwhile to revisit it. So I'm going to wrap my strap around my lower ribs, and you can do this with a long sleeve t-shirt. You can also do it with something firm and not stretchy, like a yoga strap or a belt. That works too. Or a long scarf. So all that we're doing is finding that tactile feedback for our rib cage. When we breathe in air, our lungs do expand, and our body has choices for where the expansion and acceptance of the volume and pressure change is going to go in our body. We want to practice moving it more into our rib cage and less into our belly when we're looking at pressure management and moving your spine. So let's tug on the strap a little bit and inhale, thinking specifically of moving this strap wide. So moving wide on my inhale and allowing my ribs to come back down and together on my exhale. So I'm not forcing anything. And I might then focus my brain and the back of my body and maybe tug a little forward so I can really feel the back of the strap and try to move that so you won't see it as I try to move into the back, and I get a little bit of sideways movement with it as well. So that's just always a nice thing to touch back on whenever you're about ready to maybe use a resistance band for a workout. Just touch back in on getting 360-degree movement, because when we are breathing into all the aspects of our rib cage, we do get a little bit of extension and flexion in our spine. Isn't that a cool side benefit? So the next thing that I suggest doing is getting your shoulder blades moving, because when your shoulder blades aren't stuck on your back and you don't feel super tight in your upper back, you'll actually be able to use a little bit of thoracic extension, which is a great thing to have. There's not a lot there, but we do want to access it. So simple. For a rhomboid push-up, I'm holding on to something because it really shows you what's going on. I'm going to pull the bottoms of my shoulder blades together on my back, and then I'm going to stretch them wide on my back, reaching around towards my armpits. And you can see that without an elbow bend, I've got movement in this blue half dome. And that's what you want. No elbow bend and fluid movement motivated by thinking about the bottoms of your shoulder blades. If you think about the tops of your shoulder blades, it sort of becomes sticky and not so great for your neck. What I'd like to show you is you can advance that and turn it into circles. So I'm going to move my block a little closer to the camera so I have room. I'll still hold on to the block so you can see in the camera what's going on. And what we're going to do is pinch the shoulder blades together and bring them up. And then I'm going to let them slide down the middle. Then they go wide on my back. They travel up wide. They pinch together. They slide down. They travel wide. They slide up. And they pinch together again. Let's go the other way. They go wide, which is so hard for me. My elbows want to do the work. They drop down, they pinch in, they go up when they're pinched in. Now they go wide. My elbows still want to help me. But you can see that even after years of working on this, some of the communication of brain to muscles is not always there. So that is a great exercise, and finding that fluidity in your scapula is a great way to free up the room for you to move your spine. So let's look at one of the ways that we can safely move our upper back. And that is coming down onto the half dome foam roller and using it to get some thoracic extension. So always coming down in your osteoporosis safe way. And I'm on my back with my head on it, and that's not going to do me a whole lot of good. So sometimes we make little errors, and why not record them? So there I am at my thoracic spine. I'm going to let my head get heavy in my hands, and I'm going to hold my head and try to keep this spine pretty neutral, which means I've got a little bit of a double chin. I'm trying to keep the back of my neck long, and when I try to arch over this half dome, I'm not going to use my head to do it. So I think I'm a little high. I'm going to come down a little bit more. So with my heavy head and my double chin that I'm not going to change, I'm going to think about moving the sternum a little bit up and over behind me. And it's not an easy motion to find. And maybe I think I've found a little bit, and then I might just hang out here for a minute, breathing. And then maybe look and see if I feel like I can move a little bit more. All the while, I'm trying to keep my ribs in my body. I'm not wanting to do that. That'll definitely move me, but it's my rib cage stuck to my spine that's moving. It is not my actual spine finding extension. So this is really small, but it's actually pretty pleasant, and it's a great way to find a little more movement. So let's travel down the spine and try to find a little movement further down. I'm going to use the half dome foam roller turned the other direction, and I'm going to show you the Clickclack, which was coined by Katie Bowman, a great movement specialist that I've learned a lot from. So we are going to sit, and I'm right up on my sit bones. So I'm sitting nice and tall, back of my neck long, hands on my shins, and I'll tuck my tail, allowing this to rock. And then I'm going to untuck my tail, rocking the other way. And you'll see that I'm getting spinal movement right down here. But it's not a super huge amount, and it's very nourishing, very gentle, and it feels really nice. And it's all a part of our pelvis finding its independence from our rib cage. So as we free up different portions of our bony structure, it's actually freeing up spinal movement when we're not all stuck together in one piece. We're going to come down from that, and we're going to go on our back. Actually, I'm going to use that for my head. Now I get to use the half dome under my head. And I'm going to do that not only so I can see a little bit of what's going on down towards my pelvis, where I'm going to be looking for movement, but I'm also using it to keep my rib cage down so that I can stay in neutral here and just work on moving at my pelvis. So in this case, I'm not actually moving my spine, but I'm creating independence between my pelvis and my spine. So then, if I want to do the Click-Clack again, I can know that I'm freeing my spine just a little bit. So let's work on the connections in this pelvic circle. So imagine that I have a marble right here and I roll it all the way to my belly button. Now I'm going to try to do a circle. So I'm going to try to roll to the right, roll back to the middle, roll to the left, roll to my belly button, to the right, to the middle, to the left, back to my belly button. And then I'll go the other direction. So this is really quite small, and I do see that I've got a little bit of movement in my legs, so I just try to quiet that down. It's a great way to start communicating brain to muscles and finding little blind spots, places where maybe we're not communicating, and trying to help it get there. Once we've done that, now we can take this out and just find a little bit of spinal movement where we really truly are moving the spine and the pelvis together. So I tuck my tail and I untuck, and I'm just finding that movement that happens without my rib cage doing anything. And then I get to that tuck and I press through my heels, making my bottom muscles be the elevators that lift my bum off the ground. And then I slowly start getting heavy and going down one vertebra at a time. This can be done super, super slowly, where you really are trying to imagine each little vertebra slowly peeling up. Notice that we're not going super high. We're not trying to do a yoga bridge. We are just exercising a little bit of movement going up and down. So that is a lovely, nourishing way to get some activity and movement without taking undue risk. So those are fun explorations, and there's a lot more to be done. We haven't even approached the idea of what twisting is safe. I have that in the short and sweet membership, but maybe I'll come back if you all ask for it, and I'll give you a little bit more here on this channel.